Hi, everyone. This is Dr. KatherineT.Kelly. I want to provide to you some information that I received in the last couple of weeks, basically about kind of the astrological outlook for February. Now, one of the things that I learned decades ago is that, astrology and certain astrological events do impact emotional health, psychological health, coping in general. And I learned that way back when I was actually the first time I really understood it was when I was working as a psychological tech for a hospital. And the charge nurse for the night said, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be a tough night." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, it's full moon. So we're going to have a difficult time. Let's just watch and you'll see." Well, what was really interesting to me is that he was right. And the patients were extremely restless. They were picking fights with each other. There was a lot more going on. And so, really, from that point on, I started paying attention to certain astrological events so that I would understand, wow, how can I help my clients more? How can I work on understanding what might be happening behind the scenes energetically so that I could help people cope more? Later on, I learned more about Mercury in retrograde and what that does. And Mercury in retrograde is another phenomenon that happens 3 times a year, basically. And it's a longer kind of, I tell people, it's like a longer full moon where energies can be disrupted. You can feel emotional, you can feel upset, you can feel intense, you can feel like you're really evaluating and reflecting on things. You can feel like communication is bad, technology can be bad during that time. So that's another phenomenon that I started to learn about 18, 19 years ago. And then I started really understanding what I call the astrological personality. And I sometimes use this with clients to help them understand what their life lessons are, what they're going to kind of stumble over throughout their life, what their personality characteristics are, maybe how they communicate and why they communicate, what their personal styles are, things like that. There's a lot you can tell about a person just by looking at their astrological personality. Well, over the years, I have actually used astrologers for myself to understand, okay, well, what's my life looking like? What are the key dates that I should be paying attention to for anything from, my own transformation to launching books, to launching programs, to, what are the key aspects or the key dates that might be important? So, what I'm bringing you today is kind of like an astrological forecast for February. Now, I will bring one to you for March and for April as well. But recently I watched a astrological forecast, I guess I'll call it, for the first quarter of 2026, again, to help myself understand what clients might be experiencing so that I could kind of keep a pulse on it and watch what might be unfolding for people. So I was really glad I watched this because the next 3 months, now we're already almost past, well, we are past January, but we're kind of already moving into the beginning of February. The next 3 months are packed solid with astrological events that are going to stir people a lot. Now, actually, the whole year is packed, and that's why the astrologer said, "I'm only going to talk about the first quarter because there's so much to talk about that we won't even have time to talk about the next quarter or the following quarter." So I want to just talk through February. Now, the first thing that I would say is if you are energetically sensitive, you might already start to feel or are feeling a little stirred, a little anxious, a little restless, a little uncomfortable. You might be a little more emotional. You might be feeling like, wow, I'm a little more angry or I'm a little bit more intense about situations because there's several phenomenon that are going to be happening, and some of them are already starting that people can actually pick up on. Even if they don't know about astrology, they can feel like, wow, why is this month so different? Why is this feeling this way? So I want to help lay out a little bit about what's going on in February so you can kind of keep a lookout for it. Now, as a psychologist and a soul healing specialist, I like to know this information because, again, I can kind of peel away some layers and help people understand, oh, okay, this is why I'm experiencing this, and this is why I'm seeing people at work kind of have those same kinds of experiences. So there's patterns that we will experience as a result of going through and experiencing these astrological phenomena. So one of the things to think about, and I'm gonna look at my notes from the webinar so that I kind of help you understand how all of this should be laid out. Now I'm gonna try my best to look at the the dates themselves so you know what to look for. So let me wrap up a little bit about January. So we are actually exiting a calmer period because basically it was the year of the snake from, if you look at Chinese New Year, it was the year of the snake, and snakes they can zap and they can be intense, but it's really kind of unfolding and revealing, and it's a slower moving kind of time, but we're moving into a very fast paced seismic change, seminal time, according to what this astrologer was saying. Those were some of her words that she used, because there are so many things that are about to happen that slowness, that sluggishness, that kind of, I was even worried about myself over the last couple of months because I've just been so tired. And I know that I've been tired and burned out, and I was working really hard the last couple of years. So I know that that burnout was part of it, but there's also a layer of just feeling sluggish, like people are just having a hard time getting themselves going right now. Some of that is astrological. Some of that is because we're moving out of a period where there's a lot that's getting kind of tied up, a lot of endings, a lot of kind of exploration of what we need to change, what we need to get rid of, what kind of has been kind of, I call it rototilling, what's been revealed, what has come to the surface for people. So we're getting through that period, but I want to walk through, like I said, these dates for February. Okay, let me get to that point. Uh, Let me make sure I'm there. Okay, so February is a seminal month. There is a lot that's going to be happening. This is all about, like, we're really going to be starting that early alignment process of where we're going. So if you've been pondering a lot for your own life, if you've been looking at the world and going, where the heck are we going? This is the time where things again are going to be turbulent and things are going to be turned up. And again, I call it rototilling, because in order to cultivate something, we have to kind of turn stuff up and figure out, okay, there's a rock there I need to get out of the way. There's an old root there. There's a piece of metal. We got to get this stuff out of the way. And so that's a lot of that energy that has been happening and will be happening. It's going to just feel like a lot is being upturned. In other words, kind of turned over and kind of, again, I use the word rototilling because I like metaphors that helps people understand, oh yeah, when we rototill, there's a lot of, like, everything's turned up. There's nothing smooth about it. And so the reason that I say this is that if you're starting to feel that tension, if you're starting to feel that discomfort, it's pretty much what everybody's probably feeling. And it's just a matter of looking at it as from an observational perspective, looking at what we're experiencing from an observational perspective. Now, people who have been doing their work, people who have been healing old wounds and clearing out old kinds of concerns, and whether it's trauma, whether it's just old relationship stuff, whether it's old understandings, whatever it is, if you've been cleaning that out along the way, you're going to be able to navigate this time much better than someone who hasn't done their work. So, in other words, there are a lot of people out there who haven't done their work. So, you might see some people rising up and having a difficult time coping and having a difficult time moving through some of this. But the reason that I'm saying all of this to you now is that the vast majority of the people that I work with are doing their work. They're working on this kind of stuff. And so having this information that, okay, we are in this era from an astrological perspective that we are going to be experiencing some turmoil and some turbulence, it's just helpful for us to know what's coming. So, okay, so right around February 13th, so sometime next week, that's next Friday. So everything is building right now. And on the 13th, one of the planets, I'll say it for those of you who know a little bit about astrology, this will help. But Saturn enters Aries. And what that means, you don't have to know, I'm just going to explain all of this. But when one of the planets enters Aries, and there are several planets entering Aries this year, Aries is an energy of intensity. It's a energy of wanting to change things. It's a warrior energy. It can be a warlike energy, but it's a do it energy. It's jumping in. It's something that's changing. It's an intensity that's coming. But what's interesting about it is it's basically helping people realize that there's something bigger than themselves. So we are entering a period where you're going to start seeing people realize that other people are realizing, wow, there is something bigger than ourselves. Now it's going to be a slow process, but you're going to be noticing more compassion. You're going to be noticing more connectivity. You're going to be noticing that there's more like, wow, okay, I'm not in this alone, but wow, I need to help my neighbor. I need to be there for my neighbor, or maybe I need to ask for help from my neighbor. So we're going to start to realize that there's something bigger than ourselves. At the same time as we're going to be turning inward more as well. So it's kind of this interesting time where there's some of the turmoil that is there is going to be really big and really intense, but it's going to be for the higher good. It's going to be for the long run. It's going to be for the higher good. So lots of turbulence, but this is what we need in order to get where we need to be. So just keep that in mind as you experience this. So that's February 13th. Let's see, February, what am I looking at? February 14th, Saturn enters Aries, like I said, but it's like this is where, as she said, the astrologer said, this is where rubber hits the road. So we are going to be, it's like a fast-paced, fast-moving awareness. There's going to be just a lot turning within us and turning around the world to get people's attention. So, in other words, this is about how do I find myself in a new way? What is my new identity? What is it that we are going to become as a new world and a new country and kind of just a new population in general? Let's see, that was the 14th. I think there's several other dates in here. The 17th is a big, big day. So the 17th of February is a solar eclipse. So it's an annular solar eclipse. The energies about that are intense as well. So if those of you who follow eclipses, if you are sensitive to general eclipses, this one might feel a little bigger because again, this is all turning in. It's a huge point, but she was calling it a creation point. So everything is activated right around that time, that this is a new creation point. This is a time when everything is going to look like it's changing. And so it's like leaving the old ways behind, leaving the old beliefs behind, leaving the old patterns and the old structures behind. So again, this could be a lot of change coming. Um, but February 17th this is about how we envision a new future. And so again, it's not going to happen overnight, but this is where we start doing that. So there's going to be um, a lot of intensity behind it, a lot of awareness. And so this could be on a global level. This could be, as she was saying, this could turn things around as far as global security. This could be, all she said is we can't predict perfectly, but we basically have to understand there's a lot of intensity there. So again, if you're someone who is energetically sensitive, you might start feeling this already. I'm going to jump ahead and then we'll come back. Also, on the 26th of this month, Mercury goes into retrograde. Now, Mercury is it's all about communication. It's all about technology. It's all about kind of how we relate to one another. But it's also a time where we step back and kind of evaluate. So those of you who are sensitive, you might feel it 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time because there's this, I call it a crescendo effect, but there's this kind of upward slope that happens. We hit Mercury in retrograde, it's in there for 3 weeks, and then it's like this down slope or this kind of die off period. But those of you who are already sensitive to these kinds of events, you might already be feeling it, that discomfort, that restlessness, that sometimes your old emotions are coming up, your need to attend to those old wounds, things like that, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-evaluation. So the reason I bring that up now, even though it's the 26th, people could already be feeling that, right now, but they're really going to be feeling it right around the 17th when, again, you're on that upslope of that crescendo effect. And then I'll get back to that in a second. So 3 days after the eclipse on the 17th, on the 20th, we have more energies happening. Now, again, it's basically what they call a conjunct of Saturn and Neptune. You don't have to know and really understand what all that means right now, except that that's a time of new beginnings for new cycles. So this is, again, another part of that envisioning a new dream, looking at life like, wow, we have to be doing something different. The old ways are not working. So it's that generation of generating, I should say, of new ideas and new beliefs and new visions for where we need to go, because more and more people will realize the old ways are not working right around that time. This is also a time where you have to look at, wow, am I taking my own personal responsibility for my place in the world, for how I affect the world, how the world is kind of affecting me? So it's like you're going to start to evaluate more, wow, where is my place in this world? And it's also going to initiate this whole process of what's the illusion I've had about myself? In other words, is there something you haven't been real about yourself? Are you creating or keeping an illusion alive that really is no longer fitting and that you need to really kind of take a look at where you're going as an individual as well? Um, okay, so right around the 17th, and I want to go back about that too, the 17th is also the change of the Chinese New Year. Now, we were in the year of the snake, which is kind of a slower moving, everything's getting revealed kind of energy to it. But the Chinese New Year is turning with the fire horse. So, again, fire horse is another very powerful, very intense energy. Horses are all about let's get this done, let's jump in, let's jump to action, let's push forward. And so it's this interesting time where you have all of these things that are lining up all at once, all of these things that are happening in a way that are all about intensity and all about change and turmoil and turbulence and all of this stuff that is all about really what needs to move out so we can move into this new reality. So it's one of those things where I'm just trying to help people understand that there's so much more. Let me go back one page so I can go back. I want to make sure that I'm doing the synopsis too, because I have a list of what, again, how to kind of bring it all together for yourself. Um, so lots and lots of intense kinds of things happening this month. So you've got the 13th, you've got the 17th, you have let's see, the 20th, you have the 26th, you have all of these celestial energies that are kind of coalescing and colliding. The reason I'm bringing this up is that, again, if you are someone that wants to be self-aware and also someone who is emotionally or energetically sensitive, this is a time to really pay attention. This is a time to really go, wow, okay, let me do some of that internal evaluation. Let me work to stay grounded. Let me do my extra self-care. Let me really take care of myself. Let me put on those goggles of observation to see what's going on around me, because this is such a beautiful, I used to call this beautiful disaster. This is like the most beautiful, terrible time. You know, there's all these terms I used to use. It's like it's just a beautiful time, even though it's going to look and feel bad at times, because this is the point of evolution. This is, I talk about soul evolution all the time. This is like a turning point for where souls are going to collectively, simultaneously experience a whole lot more awakening, experience a whole lot more, wow, I need to do life differently. And I need to realize that I'm affecting the world and that I'm affecting kind of my part is affecting and part of the whole. So it's going to be this interesting thing to watch. And I'm not saying we're going to have this magic wand change, but from what I was watching on that webinar and with what I know of human nature and soul development, this is an incredibly powerful time. So I'm also later going to share a video about March and one about April, because those are also intense months in terms of change and evolution and watching how this all comes together. But really look at this from the soul's perspective. So I have said over and over again that the soul will be our salvation. If you can start looking inward and start realizing that that energetic essence of who you are is seeking and really kind of begging for more attention and begging for more awareness and begging for going within so that you can, again, not only ground and align yourself, but that you can re-envision how you want to be in this world, then if each and every one of us does that kind of work, the end result is going to be absolutely stunning. And I know that there are a lot of people who aren't doing their work, but I want to talk to the people who see this video and realize that this is why it is so important to do our soul work. This is why it is so important to stop and pause and go within and listen to that inner ally part of you and ask for, wow, what healing do I need to do? What kind of resolution do I need to make? What kind of people or things or situations do I need to make closure with and shed so that I can come into my own light? And I talk about, aligning with life for radiant living, aligning with spirit for radiant living. And this is what is so important about it is that, again, like I said, the people who have done their work aren't going to be as disruptive. They're going to be observant. But it's the time to, if you haven't already done your work, get to it, because this is the new world. This is what needs to happen for us to collectively come together. So when I talk about soul healing, I don't mean it just for the individual. I mean it for the collective. And this is where more and more people are going to start to realize that we have to do the work for the sake of the collective. So again, no astrologer really knows how to fully interpret what's going on. And even this astrologer was like, we can tell you what the energies are, but we can't tell you how people are fully going to react, because individual choice and free will comes into this. But what I will say, again, as a psychologist and a soul healing specialist, is that, this is an exciting time. It's one of those things where people want to know everything. People want to know what's going to happen. And the way I look at it is that, and I've said this before, the magic is in the mystery. The magic is in the unknown. The magic is in basically staying very present and experiencing whatever you're supposed to experience in the moment so that you can take it forward and evolve. That's what this is all about. So I wanted to give you a little heads up for, again, what February was about. Because, again, we've got this Mercury in retrograde thing, which I talk about often, but we have all of these other events that are happening. The eclipse, basically the Saturn moving into Aries, all of these different events that are coming together to create this collective intense energy right around the middle of the month. But this is where we have to go within, and this is how the universe is trying to get our attention. So you have to look at this as it's an invitation. It is an invitation to do your work, but it's an invitation to go within and really look at this as, wow, universe is asking me to do my work. What kind of work do I need to do to not only serve me in a higher way, in a more spiritual way, but serve the world in terms of understanding that we are all these little drops in the ocean of humankind, and we need to come together. So again, look at this as an invitation, look at this as an exciting time, and also a time of hope and a time of moving forward, even though there's going to be some turmoil and there's going to be some upset and there's going to be some things that are turned over. That's the rototilling part of this. This is how we have to rototill and kind of turn all that up so that we can cultivate our future. So would love to hear what you have to say about this. Again, I tried not to use a lot of astrological kind of terminology, because if you're not familiar with it, you wouldn't understand it. But I try to interpret it for my clients, and I'm interpreting it for you right now because, again, February is big. February, as she used the word seminal, it is a seismic change time for us. And this is just the start. We're going to have a lot of these events throughout this year, but it can be beautifully ugly. And the ugly part of it is just kind of clearing out the gunk and really realizing what we no longer fit into, and what new structure and what new paradigm we need to create. So I hope this was helpful for you. Also, I hope it helps ground you. Like I said, ground yourself, do whatever you can to ground yourself throughout these next several months, but then also up that self-care. Make sure that you're doing that soul care and that self-care, because that's just going to help you stay in that observation better. So take this information, use it how you can. I'm happy to answer questions, but I hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope that the rest of this month is manageable for you, and that this helps you navigate it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.